measure of my nursery school knowledge. Days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and finally Friday. So thank God it is Friday. I am Blessing Eichie. You're welcome to the Friday edition of the Front Burners and Souk News TV. It's a special one because when it gets to this time of the week, there's a special energy that's injected into everyone, and the show just becomes so spicy. You know, issues of interest will be discussed here today, and you get a chance to add your voice. You don't just watch. It is audience participatory. That means you can comment, you can send a message, and we have a segment dedicated to you just to have your feedback. My partners are here in the studio, Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze, and of course, Oyinpreye Krumale. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Blessing. What's Friday in your local language?
Don't worry, Doc. We'll have that later.
Really? Great Nigeria, where we get there.
No.
Just this Friday morning, dog just got you.
No, you didn't get me. There's no Friday in my language. Is there?
Look,
Let
we
me
have
ask
the
you.
same side because you're wearing black.
No, let me
Not
ask you,
even-
because the
She
language
said
is
she would
same.
come back. So
The language is same. So if he has Friday in his language, I have Friday in my language. Doc, what's Friday in your language? There's no Friday.
Good morning,
what's
dear
Friday in your
Lagos.
language? You have
My language.
Friday.
Don't worry. I don't want to fall into that. I don't want to fall into
When
that.
the days,
Maybe Swift
when,
goes ass.
when the days of the week. No, we have four figures for numbers. 1, 2. Then we have maybe to describe yesterday, today, tomorrow.
I just remembered
But when
mine.
it comes to what is Friday in your language?
The end of the week.
we need to look for some African dialect to capture certain English words. We'll take a first story saying the federal government will take steps to harmonize fiscal data across various government agencies in a bid to enhance economic stability and bolster investor confidence in Nigeria, according to the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, who announced this on Wednesday while chairing a high-level fiscal data harmonization meeting. He emphasized the importance of ensuring accurate, timely, and comprehensive economic data to boost investor confidence and stability. Now, this is a critical issue we cannot overemphasize. It's important for timely economic data. So, at any part of the economy, that data should come up quite early and should reflect the happenings, the developments, the trends in the economy. And I, at this point, want to give kudos to the NBS for timely economic data. In that department, they are doing very well. So for each month, they give data on economic activities, the growth, the areas that have done well and the areas that have not been doing well, and also reasons behind that. And I think other sectors of government should emulate this, even as fiscal data harmonization is being talked about, Doc.
well, I won't be able to say to what extent that maybe MBS is able to actually achieve some of this, because
But theirs is timely, that's why I'm commenting there.
Yeah, sometimes some of all these things are projections, and they come because you have done some things and you have a baseline, and on the basis of your baseline, you can actually make some projections. And I think that's what I want to put there. But you see, the biggest challenge, which of course we have talked about over and over and over in government, is the lack of synergy between government agencies. And of course, you can't say in real time what one agency is doing part-time. And so you will need to have to send memos and memos and memos to be able to see what the other agency is doing. And then, of course, you can use their data to plan. Now, you can imagine what we were talking about yesterday when we were talking about the Naira for crude deal. And we're saying, yes, NNPCL is saying, oh, agreement is lapsing. Now, how is the CBN, for example, in sync with this issue? Because that also will affect whatever monetary policy that the CBN is going to put forward out there? Custom is doing something. How is the people who are in Nigerian Ports Authority able to assess what they are doing? Or how is custom able to assess what the people in the Port Authority is doing, even when they work closely together? So that distance between government is actually the problem. And I think that it's good that the Minister of Finance is seeing this, that there's a need for people to be coordinated so that when we are using data, for example, we will know which data we are using. Take, for example, if you talk about the population of Nigeria, for example, as simple as that is, as simple as what is Nigerian population, if you check on Google now, you will have
Different
multiple figures. And that's because every agency of government is having their own figure, and they are relying on one source or the other. And this is a big problem. And I think in a world of technology, where, of course, technology is defining how people live, we should be able to go beyond some of all these issues that we are thinking. Again, it takes me back to what Nigerian Institute of Strategic Study have presented to Mr. President, the onegovernment.org. The right time is now, where all agencies of government are synced into one, and therefore we are able, because people have argued that the new crude is actually data. It's data. Data is money.
Data mining.
So if we, at this age, we don't have data, it becomes very difficult for people to be able to get information that, you see, we can go online and say, okay, how is budget moving in America? You see it online. What's going to the Ministry of Defense, you see it online. Those things are not available here. And so people who are even thinking of area where they want to pitch their tent in terms of investment will not even have accurate data to measure whether there's going to be likely profitability in the thing they want to do. And so these are real, genuine worries. And if we must have to move forward, and I think this has to be done as if it was yesterday, I don't think we need to be doing too much of meeting around this, that government must sit down and understand that data is life. And because data is life, we are able to harness all the data. Now, if you look at death, for example, we can't coordinate it. We don't need to know about people that actually die, but all these things are on estimates. And we are just projecting that, okay, we are thinking that death rate is between 1.2% or 3%. So that projection don't work, and they are not actual. But if you have true data from Ministry of Health, for example, who records deaths and say, okay, this is the number of people who died, this is the number of people that are born, it is easier for us to be able to capture this data, and then people are able to plan with it and do beautiful business with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when Doc said data is the new crude, someone else actually put it in a different way. He said, data is money and data is power. Any nation that makes business projections without using data as a driving force is just making accurate data as a driving force or as a guide. It's just moving at a very fast pace, and it's heading to the ditch. The reason why I said that is because if we're to make or backpedal and reference the Nigerian population again, most of the time when we give out projections or when there's a numeration exercise and we talk about Nigerian population, one specific area that the international community always want to point attention or beam their lights on are the working population, the virile population of Nigerians right now standing between the ages of 15 and 45 or so. And with that, they can, deduce Nigeria's economic strength and the perspective of Nigerians to be able to churn out the required working population, skilled population, come 10, 20 years ahead that should meet all other needs of all other sectors with regards to development and management and business economy in the country, even including commercial activities. And so if we do not have accurate data, then the government comes out to plan where did you get your blueprint from? It is obvious that something very important is missing. Now, I think from the onset, we had made some form of laws that we have given to some institutions to execute for us to have a direction, but it looks like it has been neglected. Doc was talking about the number of deaths and from the Ministry of Health. In fact, in it is one of the core responsibilities of local governments to record death and birth rates. And that's because there is, just the way you have the Ministry of Health and the State Ministry of Health at the state level, there is also a health institution at the local government level that also collates this data, through which the local government transfers it to the state authority. And of course, the federal ministry equally liaises with the state authorities to be able to cash out this data and give projections with regards to death and births and any other epidemic that might be coming up from the ebb of society. So if we do not have this data from that specific institutional representation at the ebb of society, then we have missed a critical part of it, and we cannot start building from the middle, because we must start building from the cradle. Apart from that, when we look at this issue of data, and the Blessing was referencing the National Bureau of Statistics, you see, every country must have this institution, even at the control or at the behest of the executive organ of government, but it's completely so independent of unwholesome interference, to the extent that even if it's going to churn out data that the government or the chief executive might interpret it as painting a bad light of my administration, it should not see it that way. It should rather see it as an interpretation that should put the chief executive or the executive organ of government on its toes. So we must not interfere when the National Bureau of Statistics come out to give data or give a forecast about something, and it looks like it's indicting the administration. We must not interpret it that way, and to make sure we interrogate it. Lastly, one thing I want to reference is during the 9/11 terrorist attack in the United States of America, after it was done and dusted, the FBI and all security agencies in the United States of America sat down, including the Senate committee, and they were meeting and they were asking the military and the FBI and the security, like, how did this happen? Are you saying we did not know that these guys were working and planning, because they couldn't have done this without putting on arduous task and planning for years? And the Senate committee and the government committee that was interrogating this matter among the FBI and other security agencies discovered that the military agencies or the law enforcement agencies refused to share information. They had this data. They have credible information, but they refuse to share it. And because they refuse to share that information amongst themselves in order to present a front that, a synergy to curb that happenstance, it passed through their nose. And the devastation and the toll it took on the United States of America, we know the story. So
right.
Yeah,
the importance of data.
Yeah, I agree to some extent with what Priya said, but the only area where you say we cannot controvert what a data mining agencies put out is quite subjective, because the truth, if you remember when we were having this conversation the last day with Anisaki, one of the things he said is the fact that who is doing World Bureau, who is talked to, who is surveyed. And there, of course, because to a very large extent, we tend to see that science is as subjective as people think. There is some element of subjectivity in whatever thing that is coming out, because you cannot take the entire population, really, for example, to say, okay, you're doing a census. You can only take a sample, and depending on who you are talking to, and maybe what elements of luck factor into these things can determine whether those data that you are receiving can be true. But of course, you also know that a lot of people use data for several purposes, and it's also depending on what you're actually aiming to do with data. And I think that's where, for me, really, artificial intelligence had become really very handy to be able to isolate. I'll give you for a simple example. Some years ago, I had to do a product test for a particular company here in Lagos, and we were to sample. They were coming to do ice cream. And so we went to sample the ice cream. And by the time we finished sampling and see the opinion of people, it was clear in the survey, for example, that, oh, people don't want ice cream. And they already put money down. But a second thought to say, okay, well, who are these people who don't really need ice cream? And you go and find out the wrong sample. What did we see? People above 40 who are now watching weight, who are running away from sugar, were the preponderance of the respondents. And so, they are not the one the ice cream is meant for. Ice cream is meant for people. So for you to be able to actually get what is right, you have to be able to look at the data, look at the demographics, who is talked to, before you can take for certainty that what is information that is coming out from this agency is true. Because once you use straight percentage to arrive at a particular decision, you can be in error. And this is why people are always looking and want to see what are the facts behind the data. It's quite important also.
All right, I want to even look at the type of data that we would need to harmonize here. So when we talk about fiscal data here, we're talking about every data that has to do with the government's financial activities to reflect the health, the financial health of the government. We're talking about revenue, expenditure, we're talking about also debt. So let's even look at the aspects of revenue generation. How does government generate revenue? The taxes that come in, the grants that come in, the fees, the fines that government imposes on erring institutions or companies, and how much that generates. We need to also have that data available. We're talking about expenditure. So where is government putting in money? To what public services government putting in money? It may be in education, it may be in the health sector, or in other sectors of the economy. So when we talk about spendings of the government, what area of the economy is receiving the spending, so that we can also assess the impact of the spendings. Now we're looking at the debt of government debt. So how much of domestic debt does the government have? How much of foreign debt? How much is the government spending on servicing debt? Now when the minister was advocating for interagency
collaboration,
synergy, that is really missing. So you find that one agency of government is churning out data on its activities. The other is stalling data. Now let's even look at budget performance, agency by agency. It takes a lot of time before the financial reports from these agencies even get to the Accountant General of the Federation, before it gets to the Auditor General of the Federation. So how then do you assess to know how these budgets or these spendings were appropriated, how monies that were allocated to NDAs, how they were appropriated? So you are doing the audits in retrospect. You have entered a new year, but you're still auditing the report of previous years. And this comes from the MDAs. And that's why the minister was talking about accurate, timely, and comprehensive data. And even sometimes when data comes from agencies, when data comes from certain sectors or ministries, it is not comprehensive. And that's one issue that I highlighted one time. It's more like a carpet information. What about the details of that information? The fact that the MBS would have a breakdown of certain information as it concerns the economy, as they do that monthly, as they do that for forecast and different other aspects of the economy, it doesn't excuse the concerned agency or the concerned ministry of providing also comprehensive data regarding its financial activities, where money is coming from, where money is going to, what is the impact of these ventures that the ministries or the MDAs are getting into. Now, until we begin to do this timely, and sometimes it looks like it's a deliberate effort not to have this information timely, because some of these things can be automated. Some of them can be done using artificial intelligence, using digital systems. But there seems to be a reluctance in digitizing some of these processes. So you still have a lot of manual rendering of records. And that takes a lot of time passing from table to table, going through before you now have the data. So you're waiting for the data from the other ministry. So a lot needs to be done. I will touch on the onegov.ng. That would really help. And I think it's long overdue that we have a central system where you don't even need to go to this ministry's website to have access to certain information. From one portal, you can access what happens in the other part. But, you know, certain agencies want to also maintain supremacy, want to hoard information too, and not share information regarding their operations.
I remember in one forum we had some time ago, the DG, the current DG of NIMS was saying that the biggest problem that we really face as a people is the ego of all heads of MDAs. And everybody is claiming one level of superiority over another. So I agree with you completely, and that's why synergy is not possible, and that's why interagency collaboration is difficult, because everybody is a big man in his own right and will not want to succumb to these other persons. And I feel that really is deliberate, and I have said it on this table, and I will continue to maintain that opinion, that I feel and honestly believe so, that the fact that we have not been able to transcend primordial sentiment, to begin to recognize our states as an institution, and then, of course, some of all these things keep moving here and there, because it's just deliberate attempt by some certain people to ensure that where some things start to come in, and those avenues are not blocked. And, of course, you understand these concepts of turn by turn, which actually has been a very damaging policy, of kind of unwritten policy in public service, that a lot of people feel that, oh, it's my turn, and this man enjoyed it yesterday, so it's my turn to enjoy it today, so you will not change it in my time. And some of all these are the issues that, of course, as a nation face. And, of course, we cannot also take away how we see things differently. Just this morning, I was asking myself, now I understand why they say lawyers are very learned. Because
I have a feeling where this is going.
Yeah, to even say something is extraordinary, and I've heard more than 100 interpretations of just a common word, extraordinary. I thought that it was something that is not ordinary, that something that was not normal. But now there's so much interpretation out right there. And of course, this is not because people are actually speaking to issues that they want, but because they deliberately want to confuse the people. And this is what we find in the system. So I just do feel that we get to that point in our national development that everybody seems to really be prioritizing the interest of the nation. Just like they say, God bless America. So I want to be hearing, God bless Nigeria.
Well, indeed, God bless Nigeria. But you know one thing, America have strong institutions.
And this is what
God
we
looks
need.
at
No.
and we are going to have strong
This is what we
institutions.
need.
It's not
We are going to have
institutions.
strong
People make
institutions.
People make institutions. You see, people make strong institutions. And if you remember, when ICPC had a media parley the other day, one of the issues that was raised was the fact that, you see, institutions don't build themselves. Institutions don't build themselves. Now, in America, for example, if you are a government officer and your government is trying to do something that's against the law, you will sign your resignation and you move out. In this part of the world, people don't resign. So even if your principal is doing what is wrong, you go to the public to defend the actions.
Okay, so,
now, this is not about institution. It's about
I know,
individual
that's
values.
That's just a statement on the past.
Yeah, but I wanted to lay that, so because people keep talking about institutions as if institutions rule themselves. Many of the things that we talk about today, really, for example, even including this data, harmony, and synchronization. There are no law that say agency should deny another agency. Even the FOI that says even the
Freedom of Information Bill.
ordinary citizen can access information from public establishment. They make it absolutely difficult. It's not because the institution don't want to. The issue is that the man who is at the institution is deliberately manipulating the institution to suit his purpose.
By creating unnecessary bottlenecks. So you want information from one office. You are told go to the headquarters. So you write. And then, in fact, there's a lot of frustration at the end of the day. You're not getting the information that you want. These are man-made. But I get the point you're raising that when institutions are stronger than individuals, it will be hard for one person to control. And then there will be consistency. Yeah. But also the people need to create that so that that institution thrives.
You know what? I'm going to leave that conversation about institutions and personalities for another day. I was just, making a passive statement. I said, God has blessed America. There are things God sees in America. He's going to continue to bless. He needs to see those in Nigeria too. So now, this is where I'm going. The minister spoke about discrepancies.
Yes.
And these discrepancies in this data he was talking about has affected Nigerian credit ratings in the global arena. In fact, there are some information you want to get, even as an organization. Most especially the media. They are just afraid of the media. If from media you are requesting from a specific form of data using the FOI instrument, they are just going to stall. They'll be asked,
why do you need it? With hostility.
What, in fact. So some of this data, Nigeria needs to start, asking questions. The International Monetary Fund will come in and they will have free access to such data. Global organizations, institutions from other countries, from other nations, irrespective of their category, they have their way whenever they want to source
because they're bringing
and get
grants.
this data.
You asking for the information. Are you bringing
Nigerian
grants?
companies that are in here who need this data on ground to plan for organizational improvement, for employment, and also for investment, because the government is also saddled with the responsibility of creating an enabling environment, the right ecosystem for businesses to thrive. Whenever they go asking for this data, they don't get it. And if they make the one they find available, to that extent, even the global organizations, some of these local organizations seek loans from these global institutions and organizations to have the required finances for them to carry out an establishment or to site industry or a manufacturing hub somewhere, which sometimes they either are going to pay back or they are going to get as a way of grants from international institutions. And because in their presentation, they have not cited the accurate data, which is not a fault of theirs, but because they were denied, they were unable to have access to accurate data to defend their proposal at that global level for them to, maybe to access hundreds of thousands of dollars, then they suffer as a result of that. So if the international organizations can have that and local Nigerian companies cannot have that, and this discrepancy sets Nigeria on the wrong path, and it has its own toll on Nigeria economic and business development here. So the government must begin to address that, not only creating that, but also to be open, open to objective inquiry or request for such data.
Okay, so I think the government is taking care of that with the Freedom of Information Bill. It is now for the organizations to begin to know that there's a bill and there should be access to information. But again, there needs to be that oversight function and that consistency prevailing and keep insisting on certain information being released. But if we have these organizations, if we have them on the onegov.ng, I think that it will be clear there what information is there. And then it will be easy to monitor what information should be there that is not there. But when you don't have, a lot of them have websites that they don't update. The information there is stale. So if you want current information, you need to go to the office physically. And when you get to the office physically, you are demanding for the information. That's when this bottleneck, that's when this intentionality to frustrate those who are seeking the information comes in. But if it was a digital system where it is central and there is a monitoring team on it, so you expect that for maybe an agency like the FIRS, you expect that these are the kind of information we want. We want to know how much of tax that you've been able to rake in, the institutions that are, or the businesses that have paid the tax. If it's not there, then the question is, why don't we have this information there? But when it is website based on organization, website based on institutions, you will find that how many of them can you begin to check differently? Let's say, for instance, you go to the CBN website and you want to get what the current exchange rate is today. Chances that has not even been updated as of 2 days ago. But go to a private website where we used to have the Abuki FX. You would find it being updated 3 times daily. If you want to know what the parallel market rate is in the morning, you will know it. Just go there, you find it. What is it in the afternoon, you find it. What is it in the evening, you find it. But go to the CBN, which is the apex financial institution in Nigeria. Go and check for yesterday's exchange rates. No, you might not find it. So that is the willingness to update data. Yeah. It is not really there. And that's why you find that the Freedom of Information Bill is not working, because if you're not updating data, how then do you access it? You can go and ask, but will you get the information? That's one part of it. You were asking, why is it that multilateral institutions, foreign agencies will have access to this data, but the businesses locally here don't have it? And I jokingly said, the multilateral institutions will provide grants. The businesses will not provide grants. So it's who is bringing money they are attending to.
Yeah, but look at it really, Blessing. Lawrence Harrison and Samuel P. Huntington co-edited a book they called Culture Matters, in which they explore the place of cultural values in shaping economy and development. And one of the issues that was highlighted is the fact that if you look at what is happening around Africa, many of them are cultural issues. Do you really realize that in Africa, for example, we don't tell the number of children we have because it's a taboo?
That's true.
So you have to look at some of the cultural imperatives that actually reinforcing some of the things that we are seeing in public space. How culture affects how we think, how we do our things. Because when you put everything out in the open, you see people are afraid. And so they don't want to show everything, so we keep it. Now, it's in our subconscious as a people. And these are things that really are affecting us. Because, you see, value systems are critical to how people are governed. And whereas if you go to America and say, well, I have 2 boys, they are beautiful. Even here now they tell you and say, you are putting your children on Facebook.
Social media.
Social media. They will use their picture to do charm. Now, these are things that are shaping our consciousness. And they affect the way we behave. That's why we are not open people.
So there is the consciousness that if you put out information, it can be used against you. So to avoid that, you hoard the information.
So you have to look at that cultural dimension to some of the things that we do. And they are quite very, very many, and we can point to some certain things. I was looking at somebody's obituary yesterday, and I looked at the name that was written in my language, and I said, God, you can imagine the philosophical understanding of a name. And the name of a person is that I cannot offend the king. For example. How do you give your son that name?
So that's like you are commissioning your child to subserviency all through.
So you can't
It depends who is the king. Who is he referring to?
Don't even bring that up.
Who is the king?
Don't bring that up.
They could be referring to.
Whatever, of course, in that local environment, they have a king. So that's their king. They don't look at deity. So
you know, that's the manipulation we're talking about, when different meanings are given to a particular thing.
It's an intellectual conversation.
Okay. So you're now a learned colleague, right?
Yes, sir.
There's no trouble about that. But it's just also point to that aspect of our culture that does not make us as open as we should be. That even people lie about their age, they can't declare how old they are because they feel that, it can be used against them. And you have that tendency to stay beyond how you are. These are issues that we have to address. And of course, the only way, and that's why I keep saying, for example, yesterday I was asking Dr. Ken, is that, can we also look at the role of the intellectuals in reshaping our consciousness? That some of the things that we do really sometimes don't make meaning and they don't make sense. And we need to begin to deliberately shift from these kind of practices so that we can do things well. Take our budget, for example. It's the most opaque thing I've seen in the entire world.
Is it not in black and white? How is it opaque?
Yes, it's written in black and white. But what is written in black and white? And the people are not really having expectation to say, okay, this is a priority. Take, for example, sit down with 2025 budget and compare it with the medium-term economic framework, which is supposed to be the underpinning philosophy for the budget. They are apart. The MDAs have no regard for the medium-term economic framework.
That's the synergy we're talking about.
So these are where the issues. We are talking revenue. A lot of agency of government, when this particular government came and said, look, every agency is a revenue center. All the money you collect, put it into this thing. There was a whole lot of protests. And say, oh, we are not a revenue center. We don't collect revenue. In short, I was having a conversation with some people. I said, you don't collect revenue. People come to your hospital, they register for card.
Yes.
Is that not revenue? It's revenue. You sell pure water or bottled water on campus. Is that not revenue? You take that and say, oh, you don't generate revenue, so why would they be talking about 100% remittance? Yes, 100% remittance. This is issue because people don't want to declare everything because that actually creates room for ambiguity. And that ambiguity is what is actually fueling and feeding corruption. And I have argued elsewhere that until we have performance-based budgets, auditing will always become a big problem. This envelope system has not helped anybody, and I don't think it can help us, especially based on our cultural values.